Hey everybody, this is Captain Frugal reporting for duty, giving you my weekly comic book review for July 12th, 2023. Alright, welcome everybody to the channel. Thanks again if you subscribed and you've been sticking around, and also thank you if you've been helping the channel. We greatly appreciate it. For those of you that are new to the channel, what I do is I review a bunch of comic books during the week, and I give you my thoughts. I give you a very brief little overview of some of the comics as well, and I also show the League of Comics Geeks and what their thoughts were as well, so you see other people's rather than just mine. But here's part of the fun of it. This is a community thing. If you disagree with me, that's okay. Share your thoughts in the chat down below. If you have comic books you read that I should have read, let me know, because there's no way I have time to read them all. I give them a score of 0 through 10, 10 being an absolute top. Most will fall around 7 because that's considered average. I know some people think, well, 5 would be, but no, we're talking like a grading scale, 70%. So keep that in mind. You might hear some additional noise because I have my window open and trying to get some of this cooler area before it gets hot as heck in here, because, oh, they can be tough to run. All right, well, here we go. We're going to first start off. Let's see here. Let me pull up my notes here. By the way, you're going to hear that rumbling? That's going to be my notes. So you're going to be hearing those two. That helps keep me on track and how I come up with all my scores and all that fun stuff. Now, this first one I read, I thought at first I was going to skip them entirely. This whole series of DC's doing Night Terrors. Not a big fan of these kind of things all the time, but I decided to jump in and give it a try. And I started with Night Terrors #1 for Robin. Yeah, so Robin #1, which I gave a 7.05. 3.9 average rating on the League of Comics Geeks, with 113 out of 122 liked it, which is probably the most liked Robin book with the Robin title that we've had in a long time, because Tim Drake Robin sucked. It's Robin versus Nightmare Robins. Yeah. When the two Bat brothers get taken into the nightmare realm, Jason Todd and Tim Drake must fight against their worst fears and each other as they're forced to relive their darkest moments of their lives. Yeah, I like Jason Todd, and I'm a big Tim Drake fan when he was written right. He hasn't been in a long time, but he actually was good. Now, there's a couple things I would have mentioned about this. The writer was Kenny Porter, artist was Miguel Mendaca, which if I butcher that, I apologize. I thought the book had decent art. Yeah, had an interesting story as well. And you know what? It really is nice reading a story about Tim Drake Robin that doesn't have the whole thing focus on him now being bisexual. Yeah, that when you take that element out, and it's not an anti-thing. What I mean by that is when you don't focus every single issue on his sexuality and actually focus on the story, Tim Drake can be a fantastic character, and I thought we've seen this in this issue. I gave it a 7.05, which I think was a pretty strong score, considering I really wasn't into wanting to even get these kind of books of this series in the first place, but I decided to give it a shot. Now, this next one I was looking really forward to. Now, I'm not a fan of the writer, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I think at a personal level, he's a bit of a scumbag, but he has been knocking it out of the park for DC with World's Finest, so I gave none other than World's Finest Teen Titans a shot as well. So World's Finest Teen Titans issue #1, I gave an 8 out of 10. League of Comics Geeks said 218 out of 230 liked it, with a 4.1 average rating there, which is pretty darn solid. Spinning out of the pages of the runaway hit Batman, Superman, World's Finest. And if you have not been reading World's Finest, you are missing something good, I'll tell you that. Comes a modern retelling of the early adventures of the original Teen Titans, led by Robin the Boy Wonder. A new super team has burst onto the scene. Meet the Teen Titans, DC's grooviest group filled with super teens with super problems. Yeah, and we really get all of that in this book. When they're not fighting alongside the Justice League mentors, they're managing their image and cultivating the rabid fan base that helps them save the world, which is an interesting take on this one too. We do see that, a little bit of a modern scoop there, and kids trying to get a little popularity and some dissension amongst the team, and I think that's what makes this book interesting. It had good art. It has a solid cast of characters. And it really does have a solid story that plants the seeds for future stories, as well as some side stories as well. Mark Waid writes this book and did a good job. The artist is Emanuela Lupacino. Sorry if I butchered her name, but she did a very good job in this book. If you are not checking out World's Finest Teen Titans, I think this is worth something to check out. You might have something really good to continue here. With that said, I misplaced my ink pen, so there it is. Here, my click. There we go. We're going to move right on to my next book, which is another issue of Night Terrors. Once again, I did not plan to really get into these, but I decided, what the heck, when I read one and I enjoyed it, I went back and got the rest. I read Night Terrors Green Lantern #1. I gave it a 7.4 out of 10. 131 out of 140 liked it on League of Comics Geeks with a 3.8 average rating. Back in space to face his greatest fear, something is wrong in Sector 2814. In Hal Jordan, Kilowog, and other Lanterns must find the mysterious disturbance, despite a ban of any of Earth's Green Lanterns leaving their world. What they discover is a planet controlled by a familiar face, a face of Hal's greatest fear, and a backup story as well that features Sinestro. With that said, I thought this was a pretty good start. I like what they're doing with the Hal Jordan story here, much more than the Sinestro one. Decent art. I am going to look forward to the next one, so I'm going to give my hats off to writer Jeremy Adams. He did okay here. The penciler Eduardo Penskilla, once again, I probably butchered that name, but I will say they have some really good covers for this particular issue. I'm not going to say you have to jump into this one. I'm going to be more of a wait and see. A huge Green Lantern fan I've been since my early reading days, and especially Hal Jordan. Actually, I like the whole crew of them. What can I say? They're all great Green Lanterns, but it's not a bad start, so I'm going to have to sort of sit it out a little bit, and I can't say go and get it yet, but it might be an interesting read. My next one, Night Terrors Shazam #1. I gave it a 7.3 out of 10. 123 out of 134 liked it on League of Comics Geeks with a 3.8 average rating. Enter Tef Shazam. All of Earth's heroes, Billy Batson is the only one in double danger, because he and the captain are each haunted by their own set of nightmares. And if the world's mightiest mortal can't survive his own fears, what chance does the rest of the Shazam family have? Written by Mark Waid, penciler Roger Cruz. What are my thoughts? Well, I thought there was good art in this story. It's an interesting story as well. But you know what? I don't know. It seems like they're pushing all the focus on Mary Marvel, and don't get me wrong, I like Mary Marvel as a character a lot. I think she's a great character. I would like to see some more traditional Billy Batson Shazam here, but it seems like DC's sort of pushing him aside, probably because they feel they can't do anything with him in the movie universe because, well, the movies didn't do so great, which is a shame. I haven't seen the second one. I do look forward to seeing it. I think it failed largely because DC really failed the characters. They failed to promote the movie, push the movie, and they really failed with the whole universe. So everybody knew this really was going nowhere, so nobody bothered to see it. But it is what it is. And the next one that I read is, yes, another Night Terrors, because once I dived in, I said, might as well stick it out, was Night Terrors The Flash #1, which I gave a 7.5 out of 10. League of Comics Geeks said 100 out of 110 liked it with a 3.9 average rating. After the Flash family freed Barry Allen from the dimensional pariah that locked him in, the Scarlet Speedster was able to return home for some quality time with Iris and his other loved ones. But after the world plunged into the nightmare realm, Barry's trapped in a different type of cage, and he'll have to find a way out on his own. It was written by Alex Pacanadel, once again, sorry, butchering your names. Artist Danielle Bayliss. So anyway, decent art, and it's an interesting story. As I said, I'm not really all big into this Night Terrors thing, but these individual stories were actually still pretty good. The characters held true to the character. Are you into this whole Night Terror storyline? I didn't even read the main issue, the main Night Terrors issue. Should I go back and get that in issue? Am I missing something really big here? Are you reading this? I would like to know your thoughts. Now, the next one's a bit controversial, and that's Amazing Spider-Man 29. If you haven't been familiar, this channel has not been a fan of Amazing Spider-Man this run. They've done a lot of damage to the character. With that said, though, I gave this issue a 7 out of 10, and I'm going to explain why in just a minute. We have Zeb Wells as the writer, and the penciler's Ed McGuinness. I do say I thought it was good art in this issue. Okay, 99 out of 129 liked it in the League of Comics Geeks with a 3.4 average rating, which I know isn't super high, but I'm gonna have to say Spider-Man's been better the last couple issues, and I think I know why. It's an interesting cover too. I do like that. We have a beaten and bloody Peter Parker here with his back against the wall. Has Spider-Man finally met his match? Well, we'll find out reading this issue, won't we? Good art. Silly writing though. There's a lot of really silly writing in this one. Like, metal arms were getting tired. Okay, last time I checked, mechanical things can't get tired. They can get worn out and used, overused, and break, but they don't actually get tired. We had that. We have really J. Jonah Jameson written pretty out of character still here. And then we have more of this Wreck-Rap, which I think is an absolutely ridiculous character. Do you like Wreck-Rap? Am I just being too mean here? But anyway, why is this issue better than the last ones that have been so bad? And I think it's because, ready? Zeb Wells didn't write anything about Mary Jane Watson in it. As long as he keeps Mary Jane Watson out of the story, he's not destroying the character more. Now, should Mary Jane Watson be in a Spider-Man story? Absolutely, but not under his writing currently, because they are just destroying that relationship. They're destroying Mary Jane. It's just ridiculous. But this one, without her in it and focusing on story, was actually not terrible. As I said, it's not great by any means whatsoever. Do I think it's time to run back the Amazing Spider-Man start reading? No, I don't. I can't say that. I can't go that far, but at least it wasn't completely as damaging as it has been in the past. Now, this next one. All right, this next one is a series I've been liking from issue number 1, and it's been great. And this one's an enormous one, and that is none other than Moon Knight number 25. Just so you know, it's been rumored around the internet that this was the final issue of the Moon Knight series, which is not correct. It's going to continue, so we got that out of the way. Good. I give it a 7.35. And by the way, I'm glad it's continuing because this has been a good series. 84 out of 87 liked it on League of Comics Geeks with a 4.6 average rating, which is quite high. I have been liking this series. It continues to surprise me and be how good it is. I'm not going to get too much into details here, but we have some stuff from Moon Knight's past coming back. We have one of those stories where they're bringing some of the things that happened in his past and bringing up to how it's affecting him in the future. Jed MacKay is writing this one with artist Alexandro Vitti. There's other artists too. Alessandro I apologize, I'm butchering these names. Artist Panther. I'm not even going to try anymore. Today I'm not getting the names. It's not happening. Well, anyway, the series is still going strong. It's not getting canceled, so that's great. So do not buy into that word of its cancellation. It's okay art, and it has good action in this story too. You get a lot of pages, a lot of stuff in here. It's really a pretty fun issue. And yes, there's going to be a little side story spin-off too. I think it's going to be a mini series of Moon Knight. So as I said, not only is it not getting canceled, we're getting more Moon Knight. I think that says a lot. I think it'd be a really mistake to cancel this when Moon Knight seems to be doing pretty well, if you ask me, in the sales. I don't think you'll be disappointed if you've been reading this one. The one that maybe gripe I have with this is, come on now. We needed our favorite cat character in this as well. She was barely in it at all. Come on, give us some more Tigra. All right, with that said, we're going to go to my last issue, my controversial one, and that is Fallen Friend, The Death of Miss Marvel. The book that everybody was running out to get so much that, you know, her series is always sold so well, it's flying off the shelves, which is completely fictitious baloney. Her series has never sold that well as much as they like to push it. They kept always trying to say, well, multiple printings. Yeah, it's easy to have multiple printings when every print run is incredibly small, just for the record. She never really caught on that big. We've seen that with her numbers on her series on TV. They keep trying to push this character, and she just didn't do it. And on top of that, does anyone believe this character is going to stay dead? No, nobody does, especially with her having a movie around the corner. 78, though, out of 102 liked it with only a 3.3 average rating. Now, that might seem not so bad, but you got to remember, this is supposed to be a special issue about her death. It should have done great. I gave it a 6 out of 10. I was a little harder on it. The heart of the Marvel Universe has stopped beating. First of all, if she was the heart of Marvel Universe, all those years before she was around, Marvel had no heart. Come on, this was ridiculous. They tried to pump this character up much more than what she is. Kamala Khan died a hero's death in Amazing Spider-Man 26, which was true, she did, saving the entire universe. That might be a bit of a push if you ask me. Come join the other heroes of the Marvel Universe, the creators of Miss Marvel and comic fans everywhere, in honoring and remembering one of Marvel's brightest stars. Okay, she was not a bright star at all. There was a lot of writers in this particular issue. with each having a separate story, like G. Willow Wilson, uh, and others. So we had a lot. We had a good cast of characters in it. Mark Waid wrote one of the stories. And on top of that, let's see here, Solomon on you know that dude. I can't ever pronounce his name. Wrote one, and it really is a mixed bag at best. It wasn't that good. It really wasn't. And do we really need to? You know, it's like the whole issue had her dying, making her out to be more than what she was. She was not a staple of the Marvel Universe. Like every character's the whole world revolved around her. She was so great. I get they were trying to make her like she was a big influencer and all that. I get that, but she just never really was. They really overdid it with this issue. I mean, sure, you can mourn the person and everything else, but everyone's like, oh, woe is me, she was the best of us kind of thing. Like Peter Parker had to make sure he went out of his way to say how great she was. And in all fairness, that's the one character that I would be okay with saying that. Now hold on before you break out the pitchforks on me. The reason I say that is because Peter does tend to have a guilt complex. He always looks at everybody better than himself, so that character, I can see that. But, I mean, come on, the Wolverine stuff and everything, I just don't buy it. Not at all. Really, to be fair, too, there was nothing important in this issue at all. Nothing. Nothing to move the story forward. Nothing leading towards what might happen and might occur. This issue was really just a senseless cash grab. And I guess it somewhat worked, but they got this mini review, so enough people must have read it, so it made a few bucks that way. But I want to ask you, if you read this, did you get anything special out of it? Am I being overly harsh? Maybe it's because I never cared for the character. I tried. I read a lot of her first series, and I thought it was way overrated. And I still feel that way about the character. I think she was just a forced character for a diversity push because it wasn't that good. And if they had better writing and made her a better character, sure. And maybe that's what they're trying to do. Maybe they're realizing the character was failing and they're trying to retool her. Because I feel that's probably what's going to happen. When she comes back, she's going to more resemble what they've done in the MCU rather than what she's done in the pages of the comic book, which could be a good improvement. But that's my thoughts this week. Not yours. Let me know your thoughts below. Thank you for taking the time to watch it. I know I went a little long and a little soapboxy on this one, but you know, that is how it is. Thanks for watching. And by the way, thank these people here. Without these people, this channel wouldn't be possible. They really are key and instrumental to this channel. I consider them producers of the show, so thank them. They deserve it. All right, everybody. Until next time, keep it